Hey, good evening. Hope you are well. Here is my pros and cons videos. I'll be doing number one first, Addiction Professionals of North Carolina, APNC. And the pros, hello, good evening. Here is my pros and cons videos of the 5 jobs I chose. The first one is Professionals of North Carolina, mostly known as APNC. The pros are a strong statewide impact on substance use prevention and recovery, frequent training opportunities for early career professionals. I am currently at one of their conferences right now in Orlando, Florida, called CACA. Yes. They have collaborative environments with counselors, children, and policy advocates, which I have the pleasure of meeting this summer. And it's also great for me as a psychology major and how to get involved into prevention and trauma-informed career, public health. Cons, it can involve high emotional intensity due to addiction-related crisis and due to the community you work in. A lot of times the communities you work in are really underfunded, and a lot of this work is grant-based, so that's one thing. If you lose on a grant, you lose on resources to help the community that you're in. And they are nonprofit salaries. It's lower than government or clinical roles. So yeah. My next one is UNC Frank Porter Graham Child Development Institute. And I'll be like a research assistant program coordinator. The pros is national respected research institute with child development, opportunities to work on early childhood, equality, autism, and intervention research. Strong mentorship for students pursuing graduate school, access to UNC's academic network and professional development. I didn't know how big UNC Chapel Hill was until I really interned there this summer, and it's a person for everybody. If you think one way, a person probably did that before. And I realized with UNC Frank Porter Graham Institute, there's always a way to pivot to another career. That's what I want to say. The cons is grant funded also. So when grants are taken away, the help that you have for the communities or the resources you want to give to communities, you don't have that no more. And also, research timelines can be slow and highly structured. So they could give you a deadline of 3 weeks and you have to fix the issue. And it's a big issue for like school systems, but you don't have the resources you need. So you got to make way of what you have. Roles may require advanced statistics or research methods. It takes a while to really do an in-depth research method. So it takes a lot of time. It's really tedious. And it's competitive hiring due to UNC's reputation. Meaning everybody wants to apply to get in a job here. And it's hard to, get in. But I hope I get in for real. I did the internship. I hope I get in. The next job I will talk about is the Black Caucus of SRCD, Society for Research and Child Development. Their pros are they focus on racial equality, cultural responsive research, and Black child development. Excellent networking with scholars, research, and policy leaders. Opportunities to contribute to national conferences, publications, and advocacy. Idea for students committed to equality and dismantling systematic barriers. I feel like this fits me just because I know I want to do something in child development, but I also don't want to work with the children directly. I don't want to just stick in research. I want to be more of the ones that bring the research to the policymakers and tell them like, hey, this is what we could change, and this method is what went right, and this method is what went wrong, and how can we move past that? So I think that would be a good job. The cons are most roles are part-time, fellowship-based, or volunteer-driven. Honestly, in this economy, anything volunteering, you have to have a passion for. And I have a passion, but this is something I want to be my job. I want it to be paid, and I also want to be stable. Work can involve confronting racial disparities and systematic injustice, which may be emotionally heavy. I think a lot of jobs in nonprofit is really hard to separate the two because race is in everything we do and everything around us. So it's really hard to help a community when you are going through it yourself. And firsthand, like, dang, these policymakers really don't care. Like today, I met a policymaker. I'm in Florida, and he said something about how we let fentanyl into our communities, but fentanyl was introduced from the DEA, and he works for the DEA. So that was really a time where I had to see the systematic injustice, because if you're the ones making the policies and the rules and you're thinking like that, it's systematic anyway. You bias anyway. The next job I have is 0 to 3. Early connections last a lifetime. The pros is it's a national leader in infant toddler development and early childhood policy. Strong focus on family support, mental health, and early intervention. Opportunity to work on federal policy, training, and national initiatives. Great for future child clinical psychologists and MSW students. I feel like this will fit me because I have a background in psychology. Well, I'll be next year, May 2027, I'll be graduating undergrad in the psychology program. Then I want to get my master's of social work. So I feel like this will fit me on just trying to figure out my gap year, or just figuring out what I want to do after that and how I want my career to pivot, or if I want to stay in there. The cons is it's really a fast-paced environment with high expectations. Mainly roles require master's degrees or specialized experience. Located in D.C., higher cost of living. Honestly, with D.C. being a high cost of living, I would move to outskirts of Maryland. And when it says many roles require master's degrees, I feel like that would be my job after my master's, not between my gap year. Because I don't want to go in my gap year and they need a master's degree. But it's also, it's not what you know, it's about who you know. So I also think I could really show them my work ethic and how I could, get a job, But I'm sorry, my assignments be late, but I promise I'm going to go get it right. It'd be a lot of stuff going on. I have 2 internships, 2 classes, and moving into an apartment all at once. So I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And the last one is NC Early Childhood Foundation. The pros is it's a mission-driven organization focused on birth to 8 equality and early learning strategies. Work includes policy analysis, community partnerships, and statewide collaborations. Excellence for students about preventing the school-to-prison pipeline. And it's a small collaborative team with flexible, remote-friendly work culture. That's a pro for me because, I don't know, maybe because of the generation I'm in, I like more remote or hybrid just because it's easier for me to be more included. I travel a lot, so it's really hard to stay included. And also, I'm really passionate about the school-to-prison pipeline. That is one of my research studies this summer. So for it to help me to gain more knowledge about that, because the school-to-prison pipeline is so broad and there's so many layers to it, it's so hard to pick just one entirely section of it. But this summer, I'm doing a systematic review and how can we change it. The systematic errors in the school-to-prison pipeline, yes. The cons is a small staff, meaning higher workload during major initiatives. I like a small staff, but then that means the work gonna be 10 times as hard because it's a small one. Roles may require juggling policy, research, and communications all at the same time. I feel like I do a good job at that. It's just deadlines. I feel like I'm very scared to get in policy because if you mess one thing up, you can mess up a whole state. And that's really scary. And it's also a nonprofit funded cycles can affect project stability. This is a nonprofit, so their grants, everything depends on grants. And grant money is not stable because the grant money you're looking for it from the government or any sponsors. And sometimes, all the time, people will say one thing and do another, so you never know about the grant. And you really have to advocate for grants. So, yeah. These 5 programs offer powerful opportunities for students and professors for child development, equality, and mental health. So, yes, that's my pros and cons.